Welcome back, guys, to Ace Attorney Investigations Prosecutors Gambit, where last episode, having checked out the prison yard where the Big Berry Circus had performed during the murder of Knight, we talked to Frank Sword, Regina Berry, and Lagarde before heading back into the prison proper. There we were joined by Gumshoe and followed Missile the police dog on first a cake expedition, and then to a secret underground tunnel that joins with Knight's cell as the investigation continues. Look at that indeed. Spoons, a fork. Guess these were for digging the tunnel. And aside, are those footprints? Paw prints even. From a dog, perhaps? Tunnel prints data has been jotted down in my organizer. This is a vital piece of evidence. However, it begs something of a question. It does. Mr. Casarato has certainly been making use of his tunnel, which means... Detective, we need to find out where Mr. Casarato is. Immediately. If my suspicions are correct. Huh? Oh, nuts! The guards were alerted and they began searching for Mr. Casarato right away. But after a thorough investigation of both the prison and the detention center, he was nowhere to be found. Got a bloomin' jailbreak? Well, have the police been notified? Yes, ma'am. We just finished liaising with them a moment ago. They set up a cordon around the entire facility. Good. The first blemish on a prison's spotless reputation is always the ugliest. It won't happen again, ma'am. A rather different Warden Lagarde to the one we've seen so far. Mr. Edgeworth, was it? I really can't thank you enough for finding that tunnel, darling. Sadly, it may have been too little too late. It seems he might have already left the building. I say that's unlikely, Warden. After all, there's a security gate at the exit to the detention center. You're not suggesting he simply walked through it. What's to say there was only the one tunnel, sweetie? I suppose that's true. Well, whatever the case, this is no time to be standing around chit-chatting. Mr. Edgeworth, would you mind continuing with your investigation? It would be my pleasure. And you three can get back to your posts. Yes, ma'am. Detective, the results of the blood test just came back from the lab. Thanks, pal. Let's see what they have to tell us about the blood found in Knight's cell. What does it say, Mr. Edgeworth? They've identified the blood, and it's Knight's. Okay, the blood has been confirmed as Knight's, so he was definitely bleeding in there. Was it massive amounts? Was it the fatal blow? Questions. Hey, nice job, everybody. Teamwork makes the dream work, We've got Knight's blood in his holding cell, a tunnel a dog clearly went through, and security footage showing Knight being attacked by the dog in his cell. Case closed. We have all the evidence we need. Let's see what Mr. Kanis has to say for himself. Kanis? Oh, darlings, are you sure? Do be careful around him, won't you? He's as well connected on the outside as he is in here. I suppose he would have to be. How else would the so-called fixer stay in business? The police have been trying to track down its accomplices for the longest time. Even I've had to lend them a hand myself, you know. So that's what that was all about. He's still not talking, ma'am. Even with the evidence you borrowed from the precinct. No, and I've tried so many times I've lost count. What am I supposed to do? I can't send in a blank report. I guess a killer for hire was always going to be a tough nut to crack. You borrowed evidence from the police to help with your investigation, is that correct? Why, yes, sweetie. Everything related to Kanis is with me now. Heaven knows how many times I've hauled the secretive scoundrel into my office to talk to me. But no matter what I say, or how much evidence I present him with, he simply won't say a word. Prison warden conducting interrogations herself. That's irregular, to say the least. Let your guard down, he'll devour you whole. Be careful, darlings. You have been warned. Ooh-wee, and here I thought things couldn't get any spicier. Edgeworth brings the spice. 5:55 p.m, eh? Everyone's here too. And Judge Gavel, I didn't expect to find you here.
We have been conducting inquiries, which, given that we are in charge of the investigation, is hardly strange. What is strange is that you are still here, Mr. Edgeworth. I gave you a warning, did I not? I told you that your badge was at risk, should our paths cross again. And yet here you are.
I am sorry that you thought that I might be so easily discouraged, Your Honor. But I am not about to let the truth slip from my grasp, no matter what you or the committee might say. I am here to present a certain someone with evidence that you yourselves should have uncovered. You have more business with me, I take it, Mr. Edgeworth. I do. I promised I would be back to prove that you were the killer, and here I am. This should be amusing. Very well, whenever you are ready.
Objection!
Not so fast. We have some truths of our own to share. First-rate deductions, in fact.
Indeed, we are now more certain than ever that Simeon Saint was the murderer, and that only he could have moved Mr. Knight from his holding cell to the prison proper. We shall prove this to you beyond a shadow of a doubt. But first, a question. Are you quite determined to continue on this course, Mr. Edgeworth? Should you fail to rebut our deductions, there will be no going back. Your very career hangs in the balance.
You mean you'll take his badge if you don't like how this goes? That's intimidation.
Not at all. If anything, I'm showing him mercy. This is not Mr. Edgeworth's case. It never was, and I'm under no obligation to hear him out. If he is prepared to accept the potential ramifications of his actions, I will allow him one last chance. Well, are you truly willing to take the risk? To put your beloved badge on the line? Mr. Edgeworth!
Sir! I accept your terms. I am confident of my reasoning, and what's more, I am representing the firm of Edgeworth & Co., and I do not intend to besmirch its name. My duty will be done, and I will not be intimidated.
Very well. Let us see whether you are brave, or simply reckless. By the power vested in me by the almighty goddess of justice, let this judgment commence. Eustace, if you will allow me.
Fine by me. He's all yours, Gabelle. How Knight wound up in the prison proper.
You are aware of the incident involving Mr. Knight the day before yesterday, I assume. He assaulted an innocent guard and stole his keys. Later, in the middle of moving a large animal cage, Mr. Saint stopped by Mr. Knight's cell for a little visit. That's when Mr. Knight stole out of his cell using the keys he'd stolen. He slipped into the cage, and there he hid as he was wheeled to one of the prison's workshops.
It figures she was going to bring up Mr. Saint going to Knight's cell.
Yesterday, after you so kindly made us aware of the security camera footage, we decided to take a look at it ourselves. Perhaps you would like to see what we found. This is a still from the footage we received.
Mr. Saint speaking with Knight at his cell.
Correct. You will also note that he has positioned the cage in such a way as to obscure the camera's view. It is this blind spot that Mr. Knight exploited in order to enter the cage undetected. A sound deduction based on what can be observed, wouldn't you say?
A blind spot, which means that the camera wouldn't have been able to capture the moment Knight entered the cage, if he did at all. So it was still possible that he didn't actually leave his cell at this point.
I don't get it. Why would Mr. Knight want to hide in the cage? There is really only one possibility. He intended to escape. A prison break. That's so cool. Mr. Carceratu, Mr. Knight, everybody's doing it. I have to step up my game.
Okay, that was really not the time. Mr. Carceratu's escape is no laughing matter.
It is my belief that Mr. Saint helped Mr. Knight with his escape attempt. That is to say, he was his accomplice. Wow, go Simeon!
That wasn't a compliment.
I understand that the cage was briefly taken to one of the workshops. I imagine that had things going to plan, Mr. Knight would have remained in the cage until after the show, and then removed from the premises along with the rest of the circus's equipment. Unfortunately for Mr. Knight, Mr. Saint had other ideas. He killed his friend in cold blood.
Judge Gavel's argument seems reasonable, but there must be a fault in her logic somewhere, and I'm going to find it. How Knight wound up in the prison proper.
You are aware of the incident involving Mr. Knight the day before yesterday, I assume?
Hold it! Your Honor, about this incident.
You have heard about it, of course. Surely any attorney worth his salt would have his sources?
Yes, I am aware of it, of course. I simply wish to confirm...
Then you are wasting both our time. Shall we continue? He assaulted an innocent guard and stole his keys.
Hold it! Do you have any proof that Knight stole the keys?
I can think of no other reason for him to carry out such a brutal attack. Once the guard he assaulted regains consciousness, I am sure he will confirm our suspicions.
Wait, he's been unconscious for... This is like next day, isn't it? Oh god, that's a serious injury. I wouldn't be so sure. Perhaps I should press her further on her reasoning. Why not? I'm sorry, but I believe there's a flaw in your reasoning. I mean, we just say that and hope that there is one. If Knight had the keys, there was nothing to stop him from leaving whenever he wanted. That's very true. Why wait for Mr. Saint? There was no need, surely.
He chose the option he deemed most likely to succeed. He stole the keys and hid them somewhere, then waited for an opportune moment to present itself.
He hid the keys. I'm afraid you might have made an uncharacteristic oversight, Your Honor. But Knight wasn't hiding any keys. That has been proven already. And this is the piece of evidence that proves Knight didn't have the keys. What do we get? Must be the keys themselves at this point. They have yet to be recovered. A guard was attacked and his keys, including the one to Knight's cell, was stolen. That's the information we have on this one. He was checked out. They were yet to be recovered. They searched the cell. They couldn't find it. Is that basically it? Probably. Take that! Since you know about the incident, I assume you must already know this, but after the assault, the guards searched both Knight and his cell, and no keys were found. And if the whereabouts of the keys cannot be proven, then neither can your theory. Oh.
I have considered the matter of the missing keys, and I do not think it's such an issue. I still believe he had them. After all, the guards only stated that they were unable to locate them. And this is because they were cleverly hidden inside the pocket chess set.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. A Knight's chess set. The same set in which the murder weapon was also allegedly hidden.
Or was it? I can't help but wonder about that. What? But you're the one who proposed it! Actually, if you recall, that was Eustace's assertion.
So the two of them aren't of one mind on this, I take it.
Allow me to restate the facts. Mr. Knight hid the keys he stole from the guard inside his chess set. When Mr. Saint came to see him, Mr. Knight used the keys to open his cell and climbed inside the cage. He was then moved from his holding cell to that workshop in the prison proper, all with the help of his friend and accomplice. Had things gone according to plan, he would have been taken out of the facility after the show. But they did not. Instead, his accomplice murdered him while the show was taking place in the yard.
Objection! But Mr. Saint was a part of that performance. How would he even have had time to commit the murder?
Overruled. How indeed? Allow me to explain. As you know, many stage performances follow a set narrative. Yesterday's show was one such example.
She's done her homework, I see.
The suspect played the role of the antagonist opposite the elephantine hero of the show.
Elephantine, even. Elephantine? What is that? Elfish?
In the latter part of the performance, the heroine's love prevails and the villain is defeated. This victory is depicted in a very unique manner, whereby the villain is sent flying from the stage by the heroine.
He's sent flying by the elephant.
Isn't that dangerous? Having been ejected from the stage in this manner, the villain no longer appears in the performance. In other words, the suspect did not appear on stage for a period of approximately 15 minutes.
And you're saying the crime took place during that time?
Yes, I'm afraid so. After all, it's more than a sufficient window, wouldn't you say?
Objection!
Committing the crime and returning to the stage in that short 15-minute window is only possible, assuming that the murder took place in the prison proper. But in fact, Your Honor, the real scene of the crime was Knight's cell.
I seem to remember telling you that I would not accept that part of the security footage into evidence.
Objection!
Wow! And you won't have to. I have proof of a different kind.
Very well. Would you be so good as to present it? What proof do you have that the murder took place in the victim's holding cell?
I mean, I don't really, but he was definitely very bleedy at this point.
Take that!
This appears to be a photograph of a floor. Almighty goddess of justice, grant me patience!
That floor you're so dismissive of, Your Honor, has traces of Knight's blood on it.
Traces, you say? Is this evidence reliable? After all, I don't believe you have access to the necessary forensic operatives.
Objection!
I have my resources. A certain blunt instrument, you might say, but a reliable one.
The detective, how very unfortunate for him. Perhaps before you decided to circumvent the law, you might have considered that the committee's influence extends to the police.
Oh no, now Gummy's badge is on the line too! Forgive me, detective. I didn't mean to put you at risk as well. But I was quite open to doing it.
I will enter the fact that Mr. Knight's blood was found in the holding cell into evidence. However...
Objection!
Bad luck, idiots! You're really on the edge now, Mr. Worthless. Mr. Winner, I'd forgotten you were there. It was nice while it lasted. I just butted in to tell you that your entire argument is one big inconsistency. You showed us camera footage of a dog killing Mr. Knight in his cell. Are you saying the mutt also wiped the blood up before it left the scene? Uh-oh. What other tricks can it do, huh? A blood-wiping dog? You're a joke. I mean, this dog's a weapon! You'd have wiped that blood up, wouldn't you, boy? Yes, Helmut, yes, you would. Yeah, I agree! I think everyone agrees! If this dog is an assassin's tool, the dog's probably super intelligent. The dog could do a lot of stuff. Wiping up blood isn't that hard to do. What? That was one of the tricks I taught him before our work together was so rudely cut short. He's a very tiny boy, you know. Never misses a drop. It wouldn't do to leave any evidence, after all. Oh my goodness. Saved by an assassin of all people. Jeez Louise, you could have just taught the little guy to shake hands. Oh, he does that marvelously too. Although the way I taught him to do it is somewhat unorthodox. First, he bites down hard on the victim's hand. Then... La 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 la, I'm not listening!
I see. Very well then, Mr. Edgeworth. It seems you may have gathered some evidence worth considering.
Your understanding is much... Wait, I'm not done yet. I just thought of something else.
Overruled.
Oh boy, somebody's taking no prisoners.
Eustace, would you be so kind as to allow me?
All yours, Gabelle. Well, do you accept the truth now? The crime took place in Knight's holding cell, and the assassin's dog was the killer.
My position is the same as it was yesterday. Until you can explain how the dog moved between the prison and the detention center, I cannot accept your theory into evidence.
Hold it!
I thought you might say that, which is why I'd like to show you something else. This piece of evidence shows how the dog could freely travel between the prison and the detention center. Did no one else notice the tunnel?
Take that!
This is...
It's a secret passageway. It runs beneath the prison. What? A secret passageway? It was dug by one Mr. Rocco Carcelato, escapee. I never got to check out his room. All the supplements and everything. Supplements indeed. He leads from his prison cell to a certain holding cell in the detention center. Yes, the very one where the victim was being held.
Well, this is certainly a surprise. To think that it was beneath our feet this entire time.
Mr. Kanis, you knew of this tunnel, didn't you? Because it's the same tunnel that was used to carry out the murder.
Overruled.
In the name of the goddess of justice, overruled, Mr. Edgeworth. You are out of line.
Hold it.
How so, Your Honor?
Overruled.
Evidence is everything, whether in a court of law or at the scene of an investigation. Isn't that your little catchphrase? Well, it just so happens that I have some evidence of my own. Bronco Knight's autopsy report.
His autopsy report? Where did we get that? How do you not know you had it?
The police had it to me only a short while ago. The findings are still preliminary, but it has something of value to tell us nonetheless. The goddess of justice speaks to us through these pages, Mr. Edgeworth. Cause of death, stab wound to the throat, and the weapon is said to be a sharp blade of some sort. It seems the victim was stabbed repeatedly in the same spot, resulting in an ugly wound. As such, the police have yet to identify the exact shape of the weapon.
Ooh, so his neck was literally... I was going to say carved out, but that might be really on the nose, if you know what I mean.
Its overall nature seems to be beyond question. It is a bladed metal instrument. In light of this evidence, do you truly wish to continue with your flight of fancy? Or will you now claim that the dog used a knife instead?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Kanis is about to tell us that the dog can. But that's impossible!
That will be all. This court is adjourned.
Objection.
But the tunnel, the paw prints! What of them? Elmer is something of a wanderer. Perhaps he just happened across this tunnel one day. Although I couldn't say for certain. I myself cannot wander quite so freely. That would be quite a coincidence, but I can't prove it's not the case either. She sure knows how to keep a secret, huh? Kinda wish she'd kicked us in the teeth a little earlier with that. She was baiting me, waiting for the perfect moment to crush me with that autopsy report. And I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker.
You are lead attorney for the defense, correct, Mr. Fender? This is the interim autopsy report in question. I do apologize for the delay.
Yeah, no sweat. Thanks for hooking us up. Autopsy report data jotted down in my organizer. I wish to see it. Death was instantaneous. Is there any more information than that? Yep, this all checks out. Oh, yeah. Is there any more information that checks out? We can't examine it further. We can. Literally no use.
Mr. Fender, a handshake is not necessary when receiving official court documents, you know. So please feel free to let go of my hand. It's not a holy relic after all.
Was just trying to be friendly, Your Honor.
Had you lingered a moment longer, the goddess of justice would have spoken to you through my gavel.
All right, I got it. Nice work, Gavel. Just like we planned it.
I did only as you instructed, Eustace, but thank you.
This report came from the police. I have no choice but to accept its legitimacy. But if the dog didn't kill Knight, then that takes Kanis out of the running.
The goddess of justice speaks to me, Mr. Edgeworth, and she is merciful. She tells me that you might yet keep your badge if you will finally abandon this fruitless quest.
What's our move, sir? I think she really means it this time. What do you think, Detective? My answer remains the same, Judge Cavell. I will see my duty done, and I will not be intimidated.
Even with how things stand, you still refuse to concede? This may very well be your last chance. Your badge hangs by a thread.
Then let it fall if it must. I have something far more important to protect as an associate attorney. My client.
The goddess of justice is no doubt saddened by your refusal to accept yet another offer of mercy.
Heh, attaboy, Miles. That's what I like to see. Looks like the defense never rests is really starting to mean something to you. Credit to your old man, though. He's the one who said it first. My father. In fact, I could swear I saw Gregory's spirit in you for a second there. You said that you changed since your days in Von Karma's shadow. I didn't believe you at first, but I'm starting to. Thank you, Fender. Alright, kids. This is where the rubber really hits the road. Put your thinking caps on. It's make or break time. If it's true that Knight was off with a bladed weapon, does our whole case really fall apart? A bladed weapon? Of course. There were 5 chisels in Kanis' cell when we last looked. A former assassin certainly wouldn't struggle to commit murder with a tool like that. In which case, the weapon that killed Knight was...
Have you quite finished? It would be in your best interest to concede.
Evidence is everything. It may well be my little catchphrase, but it's also true. So the murder weapon was a sharp blade. Then where is it? The guards didn't find it.
Why can't you let this go? So what if they didn't find it? What are you driving at?
What if I were to tell you that I now know what the real murder weapon was? And it was right under our noses the whole time. Indeed. It was one of Mr. Kanis' chisels.
What?
Overruled.
I would advise you to stop bombarding us with your irresponsible half-baked theories, Mr. Edgeworth. You have repeatedly insisted that Mr. Knight was killed in his cell by a dog.
I simply go where the evidence takes me, both in the courtroom and at the scene of the crime. If the murder weapon was in fact a chisel, then yes, the murderer could not have been the dog. But that begs the question of what exactly it was we saw on the security footage.
Oh yeah, the security footage. How do you explain that, Mr. Smarty Pants?
An excellent question. The footage shows... the dog jumping on somebody. Not the dog killing someone. That didn't show that finale, and didn't show someone attacking the dog. Unless they have telekinesis. Mr. Kanis' dog jumping up at Knight. The dog attacked Knight, but he didn't kill the man.
He didn't.
No, Knight was merely knocked out. The dog didn't drag a corpse through the tunnel. He dragged an alive but unconscious Knight. The real killer was the dog's master. Oh, I get it. By bringing Knight here, Mr. Kanis could finish the job.
And he could definitely use one of those chisels to do it.
Correct. You, bodied harmer Kanis. You're the only one who could have done it.
Objection!
Hey, Mr. Edgeworth, you ever get this on your report card? Refuses to listen. Must learn to respect others. Are you asking me or confessing to what's on yours? We already searched Mr. Kanis' cell from top to bottom, right, Gavel?
Yes, we even inspected his chisels. All 4 of them. There wasn't a single speck of blood.
Hold it!
Why, thank you, Your Honor. You have just confirmed my theory.
I have? What exactly do you mean?
The last time we were here, there were 5 chisels, not 4.
Oh yeah, I remember counting them. Definitely 5.
And the one that's missing is... the small one. The one we thought might be a pocket chisel. Mr. Kanis, where did you hide that chisel? A pocket chisel? And what use might I have for such a thing, huh? I am rarely allowed to leave my cell. In which case, he shouldn't have had the chance to dispose of the weapon. You've dug your own grave, Mr. Kanis.
You seem to have an idea where this missing chisel might be, Mr. Edgeworth. Would you enlighten us?
For a man who can't leave his cell of his own volition, Kanis could only have hidden the chisel here. This cell that we have never been in. Probably in his cell, of course.
Take that!
Mr. Kanis is still a prisoner, despite the comfort he enjoys. He is rarely allowed out of his cell. He could have given the chisel to his dog to leave somewhere. But that would have been far from ideal. He would have no way of guaranteeing where it might end up. Intriguing! Do go on, Mr. Edgeworth. Furthermore, this room is the one place where a bladed instrument wouldn't raise an eyebrow. 4 chisels, 5 chisels. Who's counting? A fact he took full advantage of. Ah, the old keep the incriminating evidence close routine. Classic.
Objection!
But I looked. I searched the whole cell myself, and there's just no way I could have hidden it.
Objection!
I am certain that the murder weapon is here, and that the reason why no one has found it yet, because it was hidden in such an ingenious manner. Do enlighten us, Mr. Edgeworth. What was my ingenious plan? Think, Miles. There must be a hiding spot you could make use of. Think about when you came here previously. What are you missing? He's not showing us out permanently, right?
Let's get out of here. Come on.
The dog. He hasn't made a sound today. It's in his mouth. When we were here before, he barked and growled repeatedly. Kanis even encouraged him to do so. But that must be it. I knew something was off. I can hardly believe it, but I think I know where he hid the murder weapon. Giving up already? I expected more of you, Mr. Edgeworth.
Hold it!
As well you should, if you would give me a moment. Well, this piece of evidence shows where you hid the murder weapon.
Take that!
Your dog. He seems unusually quiet today.
Oh yeah, unlike last time when... Mr. Kanis, if you would be so kind as to open Helmut's mouth.
Oh, come now. He hasn't barked because he's a well-behaved boy. I had to order him to last time. Then order him again, this instant.
It's not like we're asking for the world, Mr. Kanis. Or do you have something to hide?
If you insist. Go on, Helmut. Open up. And there we have it. A chisel that small was easy enough for a dog of this size. What? A chisel in the dog? Why is there a chisel in the dog? I thought he'd been strangely quiet. I guess his brain has finally caught up.
Eustace, why don't you be a good boy and call forensics? Tell them it's urgent.
Ah, okay. Our findings are as follows. Traces of blood were detected on the chisel. What? Not such a half-baked theory after all, was it? Hey, alright, so we're all on the same page here. This is our murder weapon, yeah?
The forensic evidence cannot be ignored. We have no choice but to concede that this is most likely the case.
The chisel data is jotted down in my organizer.
Mr. Kanis, in light of the discovery of the murder weapon, the court demands that you explain yourself.
We found the route your dog took to the holding cells, and now we have the chisel. How do you propose to talk your way out of this one? You never felt entertained, Mr. Edgeworth.
Why does he always laugh like that, even when it's not funny?
Poor Helmut. How could they suspect us? You leave me little choice. I shall simply have to share with you the truth. I did not kill anyone. I have grown tired of killing. Something's not right. Why is he so calm?
Very well. The court will hear Mr. Kanis's testimony.
That seems to be our next step then. Right, so, with a testimony incoming, a murder weapon found, a murder weapon that belongs to someone who kills people galore, or used to in the past, with dog prints and video footage evidence. It looks so banged on, but could it be? That is really the question in Ace Attorney Investigations 2. I'll see you next time for more. Until then, I say, bye-bye.